dog off, and finally the 8th grade daughter couldn't get the dog to let go, like place kicked the thing, like like a place kicker,
Good Lord.
to get it off. And it was, I mean, my mom had to rush the dog to the animal hospital. My mom's T-shirt that she was wearing honestly looked like she had brought a gunshot victim to the hospital. It was that much just ripped open on Oliver. And luckily, for like hours, and then at that same time at the animal hospital, like 4 or 5 dogs came in cardiac arrest. So they get, believe it or not, they get like, because of that they get priority. So this dog was just like literally sitting on a table for hours, just essentially with a towel around it, not being treated. Then they finally sent my mother home, and they did like a 3-hour surgery on Oliver, and called my mother up at like 4 a.m. to pick him up. And so yeah, he survived. Seems to be getting better, but had surgery. And like when humans have surgery, you have these drains in because you're bleeding internally. He's had all these drains coming out of him, basically, where he's essentially been open bleeding for like 3-4 days. So he apparently is much getting better. Got the tubes out today. Is still a little skittish, I would assume.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah. Best wishes to Oliver and your mother. All right, let's get back to hockey. From Nikolai, were you ever able to decipher what the reasoning was for Fenton backing out of those trades, or what they were trying to do with the cap space after, if they had made them?
I'll be honest. What I've deciphered is kind of what I've insinuated from the very beginning. It wasn't the Wild that backed out. It was Arizona. And again, I the way that I understand it is, and I don't think it's a shock, is that, Pat Brisson and John Chaika worked for Pat Brisson, the Arizona GM. That's how he got his start. Brisson represents both guys that were traded head-to-head in the deal. And I think that Chaika was used by the agent I think it's very clear when you read between the lines what happened there. Look, Brisson's a great agent, and he's got some unbelievable players. But look, Austin Matthews just got rid of him. Max Pacioretty fired him because he felt he was too cozy with Mark Bergevin. Agents have people that they're tight with, and sometimes players need to recognize that, and that's what I think happened there. But I don't know. I assume what he would have done with the cap space is gone after a James Neal or a JVR or something like that in free agency.
Interesting. From Dave Johnson, who is Fenton most impressed with between Eck, Greenway, and Cunnin?
He hasn't talked about that. I don't think he was really familiar with really any of them, other than maybe Jordan Greenway, because one, he made his NHL debut in Nashville, and two, is Fenton is really good friends with David Quinn, the Boston University coach, and now the Rangers coach. And I think I've told this story before. Fenton is actually the person. So my buddy, longest friend in the entire world, works for the Nashville Predators. So every time I'm in Nashville, he'll bring me down just to they got an incredible club underneath Bridgestone Arena for big time season ticket holders, where it's like open bar, open food, and it's crazy. And it's one of those places, by the way, that if you're wearing like a Minnesota Wild jersey, you're not allowed in. Like you're only, you can only wear regular clothes or Nashville stuff. So he always brings me down there just to not to eat or drink, but just to go. There are people down there that he's friends with. I'm friends with a lot of people in the Nashville organization. So we're going down there, and I run into Paul Fenton in March. And by the way, I said to him, I might be dealing with you in a little bit. But Fenton actually goes, hey, you see who's here? I'm with David Quinn. And I'm like, wait, what is he doing here? He goes, he's surprising Jordan Greenway for his NHL debut. So I'm like, can I grab him? And I grabbed Quinn, and I did the story, and I embargoed it until warm-up, so Greenway didn't know that Quinn was there, just in case. 30 minutes before the game, he was on Twitter. So it was Fenton that actually arranged my exclusive. That's I would have never known until after the fact, when then, everybody started asking Greenway. Well, I've written the story, and then everybody started asking Greenway about Quinn being there. So my guess is, and the other thing that Quinn has, really impressed upon Fenton is that this guy really can play center. So there's something intriguing about maybe trying to put Eriksson Ek and Greenway on the same line to start camp, and maybe even switching one play wing, one play center, and see which one wins the job, or not just wins the job, but wins that position.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting. Another one from Dave is Zucker for Tuck, even thinkable.
Again, why would Vegas do that? If Vegas thinks they're going to get Zucker, why would you give up Tuck when they can get him in a year? So no. And the other thing is, if Vegas is in on Carlson, I bet you Tuck's in that deal.
From Kyle Miller, if Koivu has another subpar season, how long does Boudreau wait to diminish ice time or his role?
Koivu had a subpar season offensively. Let's just again be clear on this. And he wasn't as great in the faceoff circle, but defensively he did his job. There is a reason why he was top 5 again in Selke. But it was his lowest point total in a full season, non-lockout, since 11-12. And I do think there just comes a point. I think that Koivu holds back Granlund. There just comes a point that Granlund should not play with him.
Yep. If
you want to get the best out of Granlund. And we saw that. I think when he was with Stahl, it was good stuff. So what was the rest of the question?
That's it.
I think that Bruce would like to, as the season progresses, get Eriksson Ek in an elevated role. And that could mean even if you almost don't make it very obvious to Koivu that you are the third line center, you'll still see him go first in line rushes. You'll still, in warm ups, I guarantee it. But ice time wise, matchup wise, he's never going to go down to 12, 13 minutes, nor would you want Mikko to do that. He's still a good player. But in hindsight, and this is hindsight, because I did not have a problem with the extension at the time. In hindsight, you wish they didn't do it.
Right. No, agreed. Patrick Gage, how confident...
And by the way, a lot of that's on the owner. If the owner in the back of his mind thought that he was going to fire Chuck in the last year of his deal, he should have been stepping in front of some of these moves. Mm-hmm. He should have been stepping in front of the extensions that he gave all his friends. Mikko's one of those guys. If you going in the last year of the deal, you have to worry about what a GM is going to do. This is why that you don't want ever a GM, or frankly a coach working in the last year of the deal, because sometimes they're not acting in the right, thing that you're going to want. Is the new, you almost got to think would the new GM want to be handicapped by this?
From Patrick Gage, how confident are you that Fear can consistently play fourth center and do well?
I've got to see him more. I will say I liked his game in San Jose. I don't think he was buried in San Diego because of, being a poor player in Toronto. That's the way I understand it, is that just, he was going for fourth line center and dominant, and basically somebody else won the job. And then they were essentially doing him a favor because I think he lives out in San Diego. So they just said, they loaned him to the Ducks organization to play there. It wasn't that Toronto was trying to get rid of him. Everything I know about Eric Ferry is just a great guy. Every time I've interviewed him, he's just a terrific guy. He grew up with Justin Falk, the old wild Justin Falk, not the local Justin Falk. They grew up together in Manitoba. The one thing where I just don't like it, but again, for that price at the fourth line, they had to go $1 million. They weren't getting guys like Derek Ryan for that, or Riley Nash. The only thing I don't like is that consistently in his career, he hasn't been a good face-off guy. And the whole point of getting him was that the Wild haven't had a right shot center in the last year, especially on the penalty kill. So, if you're going to put him out there on the penalty kill, which Fair is a great penalty killer, and he's going to be losing draws, and now you're starting in your own zone because all power plays start in your D zone, opposing power plays start in your D zone. That's where the issue goes. So, maybe the hope is by the time that if you realize that he's not good enough, that you've put yourself in a position where Cunning's back, where you could feel comfortable bringing him up. They have other minor leaguers, Ferraro, Cal O'Reilly, other guys you can put in that position as well.
Good questions, Dave. Dave sent us about 8 questions. Just for the sake of fairness, I'm going to go to other people at this point, but they are good questions. From Derek Felska, is The Athletic going to send any of its staff to cover the Beauty League? I think you already answered that.
Yep.
And do you know if they will be streaming the prospect camp scrimmages again this year?
I assume. I don't know that. And in terms of the Beauty League, we're going to have some awesome features throughout. It's not going to be. My plan is not to do like I did a huge the Beauty League feature last year for the Strib, but you know, to me, where our stories are going to be are just actual player stories. You know, and you know, stuff like talking to Letty and you know, one I went talking to Letty and Lee about the new changes in Long Island, in Brooklyn, and you know, with Lamorello Trotz and No Tavares, stuff like that. You know, picking player features. You know, I want to do stuff on a couple of guys there.
From Zach Brown, what is keeping Stalock from being an NHL number one?
Probably size, the ability to play on a consistent basis. You know, he's just. You look at him. I mean, he's an incredible puck handler, but there are times where it's just you beat him upstairs. I mean, you know, these guys just light up at a player that size, a goalie that size. It's not like the old days when you had a league full of Artur Zerbe and Mike Vernons and John Van Beesbrooks and stuff like that.
From Cody Pollock, do you have any more updates on injuries? Suter, Parisi, Cunnin?
Parisi still kind of feels it in his chest. That's why he didn't play golf in that thing, the United Heroes charity tournament at the end of July. But he's going to be fine well in advance of camp. Cunnin, I talked to at the draft, and he said that his goal is to be ready by day one of training camp. And Suter, read The Athletic this week.
From Brett, thumbs up, thumbs down, neutral.
On what? What? Sorry.
On Suter.
Oh, you know what? I honestly don't know. I'm not doing the story.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
From Brent Winthizer.
But I will tell you, I mean, everything that I've heard from him, you know, I've texted with him a lot, is that he is definitely on track. I know he's driving because I saw some pictures today of the reporter that's with him. Now I'm giving everything away.
Yeah,
we have somebody down there, and he's with him, and I assume the pictures I was seeing was with our guy in the passenger seat. So yeah.
From Brett Winthizer, are we ever going to find out more about the job you were offered by a team years back, or is that still secret stuff?
No, I mean that I don't even remember that I said that. Atlanta.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, good.
Actually, that was in front office. I've been offered other jobs working not in I wouldn't say media relations, but in kind of like a Dan Myers role, like Wild.com type thing. Not for them, but I'm saying like, you know, being a team reporter for its teams. I've been offered that. And then I've turned down the league 3 times. One came very, very, very close to taking it. Yeah.
From Chris Noble, where on your list of Trampled by Turtle shows would you place the show in Duluth this weekend?
Every time I see him, I think it's the best show that I've ever seen, but that one was epic. It was epic. It was just, first of all, I love their new album, and just, you know, I a couple days ago begged via, begged isn't the right word, but I sent a suggestive text to Simonette to play Our Town in the this is actually a funny story. So I asked them to play Our Town in the encore, and Our Town is an Iris DeMette cover. It's a beautiful song, and they play it incredibly. And it's finally now, like, if you go on YouTube, because they've done it 3 or 4 times, I think, on this tour, it's finally, like, people are at least putting clips up so you can see little snippets for what I'm talking about. But, so I sent him this text, and I'm probably, I would say it's okay. I would say that there's a good bet he doesn't love friends of his telling him songs to play. That's
sure.
just my guess. So he didn't reply, so I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't piss him off. And then, you know, I've become friends with, like, not only the guys in the band, but I mean all their, like, roadies. And so Matt, who's their, like, roadie, bus driver, everything, I see him before the show. And I'm like, hey, you know, do you have the set list? So he pulls it out of his pocket and he shows me, and it's not on there. What I didn't realize is that they don't put the encore is something that he decides as they go off stage. You know, it's usually 2 or 3 songs. This time it was 3. And so I was all disappointed that he wasn't going to play it. And then all of a sudden they play the song that I saw last as their last song before the encore. I'm like, wow, there's actually a shot. And then, you know, second song of the encore, they played the chords of Midnight on the Interstate to fool everybody. And then they played Our Town. It was incredible. Then they went into Midnight on the Interstate. But it was, you know, Bayfront, Bayfront Park down in Duluth? I mean, it's right on Lake Superior. It's just awesome. I mean, it's just beautiful. It was a perfect night. No mosquitoes. Packed. 10,000 sold out before. The lines to get in there were insane. And you know what's really funny? I shouldn't. You know what? I'm not going to say this. I was going to say that I noticed during the show how people sneak into the show, and it's brilliant.
Okay,
all right. I'll give an example. I'll give it without like.
I love it when you say you're not going to say something, and then you say it.